Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Women's Maximum Fitness podcast. I'm super excited today to have my special guest, Shannon Beer. Shannon is a nutritionist who is in Bali right now, and she is going to talk to us today about the science of body image, which with everything with social media exploding all over the place, I think this is going to be super important and very interesting. So Shannon, how are you doing today?
Yeah, really good, really good. How are you?
I'm good. So I had a podcast with Gabrielle, and I know that you do coaching together with Dr. Gabrielle Fendero. So can you talk a little bit about that, and your background would be wonderful.
Yeah, sure. So with Gabrielle and I, we have been collaborating on a framework of coaching that we've coined as comprehensive coaching. So something that's a little bit more than just, tracking macros and helping people to lose weight. Essentially, we've dived into the psychology behind behavior change and use those different theories to inform a framework of different tools that we can use as coaches to help coach our clients to a successful, health and fitness journey, whatever that looks like to them. So that includes weight focus, but also weight neutral approaches designed to help people kind of fix their relationship with food, but also improve their body image. So we draw on theories like motivational interviewing to help us improve our communication skills with our clients and to kind of guide the relationship that we have with our clients, and also acceptance and commitment training and cognitive behavioral coaching as well, to really bridge that gap, I think, between coach and client, and also health and fitness, because although we think they're the same thing, often they can diverge where, pursuing our fitness goals isn't always the healthiest thing we have in mind. So that's kind of what we've been working on together. And then just a little bit about me, I suppose that I did study law when I was at uni. I was studying law and then kind of figured out that it wasn't what I wanted to do, and then studied nutrition with Mac Nutrition Uni, and it was an online course. So I went traveling as I was studying, and I just kind of kept traveling since then because I haven't got bored yet. So I'm in Bali at the moment trying to escape lockdown, and just picked up BJJ, so just kind of reading a lot, training a lot, eating good food, and yeah, it's been going all right.
That's really awesome. I love that. The psychology part of it is fascinating to me just because, a lot of us know what we're supposed to do, but it's the science and the behavior change it's the process. You know what you're supposed to eat and how you're supposed to eat right and exercise and everything, but it's that coaching that kind of brings the two together. The more I get into it, the more I realize it just delves into the person way more than just here's a diet, here's a training program. So I love that. So,
That's exactly it.
So I follow you on Instagram, and I really love your posts. You have just a lot of reflective things that, again, is much deeper than just diet and exercise. So we're going to talk about the science of body image today. So where would you like to begin with that?
Yeah, I guess it would be a good place to start by defining what body image is, because that will then really inform how we go about improving someone's body image. And the reason that I think it's important is that when working with people, or even when it comes to improving how you feel about yourself, I often come across people who, want to lose weight in order to feel better about themselves and improve their confidence. And I kind of always wondered, well, what makes you think that, losing weight or changing your body composition is going to make you feel better? And there are reasons why people believe that, but it turns out that, simply changing the way that you look doesn't really necessarily change the way that you feel. And you can also change the way that you feel without changing the way that you look. And I think if you are going to pursue some physique goals, it's really important to understand your motivations behind that. pursuit. And if it is coming from a place of wanting to feel better, then it's totally fine to continue to pursue those goals. But I think there needs to be some additional work alongside when it comes to reducing a negative body image and promoting a positive body image. And what body image actually is, then, it's kind of the perception that you have of yourself and how you look, and the thoughts and feelings that result from that perception. So there are four key components that go into that. The perceptual part is the way that you see yourself, and that's not necessarily an accurate representation of what you actually look like. So you probably have been there yourself, or had clients who get mega lean and then still feel like they have fat to lose, and they don't see themselves as lean as what they actually are. And it's so interesting because sometimes the leaner people get, the worse they feel about how they look in terms of their perception. It just kind of gets a little bit warped. Then you also have the affective component, so how you feel about how you look, the cognitive component, so the thoughts that you have about your body. Like, oh, if I just had some more muscle, then I'd be more attractive. And then there are also the behavioral components, so the things that you do in relation to how you look. So if you're having a negative kind of, or a day where you don't feel so great, what do you do in response to that? Do you tend to avoid looking at yourself in the mirror, or do you tend to look at yourself a lot, or pinch your body fat, or say that you can't go out with your friends because you're not feeling too good that day? There's a lot more to body image than simply looking a certain way, and it's much more to do with the thoughts and the feelings around the way that you perceive yourself.
That's like, it's so fascinating. So immediately I thought of two examples. One was, I remember in particular, a client that I had who felt like she was going to be happy when she reached a certain weight. And this isn't just one, I mean, that happens a lot with people. They want to reach a certain number, and I kind of just assume that they're going to be magically happy once they're 125 pounds or whatever it is. And for this one, I remember particularly, that was her weight when she got married, and she maybe associated that with a happier time. I'm not sure, but just really wanted to get back to that weight. And it's funny because her body was changing as we were working together, and she was leaning out and doing it in a more correct way. I know personally, I have been through weight loss where I would starve myself and did a ton of cardio, and you weigh less than when you weight train and diet correctly, even though you might be the same level of, might be kind of the same size, it's a different shape, and she was leaning out and looking really good, but was so focused on that scale number, wasn't pleased at all with the fact that she was slimming down and, toning up. But that is just really interesting to me, and I think about too, I have been so many different sizes in my life because I was anorexic. I got pregnant and gained 50 pounds, and, just all across the board. And then even in contest prep, I look back at contest prep pictures, and I wasn't happy during, it's not that I wasn't happy, but I wasn't satisfied with my body at any of those stages. And now I'm, kind of the biggest, I would guess, I have the highest body fat that I've had in a very long time, and just finding happiness in life and not with, what my body looks like. Probably getting older and realizing that life is too short. But it's just really interesting how happiness is kind of a choice, isn't it? Right? Like, and when you have external things that are driving you, and you think that's where you're going to find your happiness, it's just not the case, because you don't just get there and then achieve happiness, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, as you've kind of touched on, there are a number of different things that are like driving us towards certain goals. So, like the idea that looking a certain way is going to make me feel happy, like the fact that it's so common kind of indicates that it's not just like a thought that someone has in their own head. There are a lot of things that influence the way that we feel. And I think helping someone to understand that, why they feel the way that they do, where their body image has come from, can really be the first step to helping to highlight that, you know, maybe this isn't the answer. And again, there is some additional work there, because things like our cultural socialization, our interpersonal experiences, so even like the relationships that we have with people growing up, particularly like maternal influences, the interactions that you have with your peers and talking about weight, or fat talk as it's known, your physical characteristics and changes that you go through, so for example puberty or pregnancy, and also certain personality traits as well, like perfectionism, really are like priming people to fall into that trap of thinking that it's important to look good. And when you think about the rise of, you know, fitness model like advertisements and the changes there, we are actually seeing that there is an increase in the internalization of the muscular and lean ideal, rather than just like the thin ideal. Think back to like when fashion models were kind of all the rage, everyone just wanted to be super skinny. It's been like different for and different for kind of men and women. Men have kind of always had that muscular and a lean ideal to strive towards, because that's what we're conditioned to think is, you know, attractive and will bring success with that. Whereas now for women, we're starting to see a shift from just wanting to be thin to actually wanting to be more muscular and lean. And that's quite important as well, because there are different behaviors that are associated with that. When someone has a negative body image, their risk of developing eating psychopathologies is increased, so kind of disordered eating behaviors. And with the rise of the muscular and lean ideal, we're seeing things like people getting obsessively worried about their protein intake, for example, which may be like a newer behavior than what we would expect from someone if they just want to be thin, because it's all just about kind of losing weight. Whereas muscularity oriented eating behaviors are slightly different and come with their own sort of concerns. So it's just like some different red flags to look out for. But yeah, the point is that we can, there are things that we can do to take charge of how we feel, but also I would say that it's not anyone's own fault. Like, it's not a case of being vain, you know, like, oh, you're so vain to be worried about your body. It's actually, well, no, it's pretty normal, and it makes a lot of sense given the culture and the environment that we live in. So it's absolutely fine to find yourself in that position, but know that you have some ability to take charge and do something about it and change that, because these ideals only affect us if we start to believe in them, you know. And we can, there are certain things that we can do to, as I say, reduce a negative body image and promote a positive body image, but it's certainly not anyone's own fault for falling into that trap.
It's really interesting how culture kind of defines how things are changing, because I remember too, I grew up in the 90s, and that was very much the age of the runway models and like Victoria's Secret models, you know what I mean? And I think as it evolved over the past decade, 2 decades, I did, you know, I was kind of pleased that, you know, it was like, I have bigger legs, and, you know, it's like, it was kind of okay. It was accepted to, but, you know, here I am, someone who was falling victim to, like you said, if you don't care about the standards of society, then it's not going to affect you. And then the fact that it, you know, it translates into like an eating disorder type of behavior is, it's really interesting. So one of the things that I was thinking about was, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and Dr. Scott Stevenson was talking about how when you have a childhood trauma or something like that, that kind of gets into your epigenetics. That is your epigenetics, and that can translate to the way that you feel about yourself when you're older as well, and then that can also translate to an eating disorder. Do you notice that a lot with your clients too?
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I do think that someone's upbringing has a huge impact on, you know, the way that they view themselves and subsequently potentially their eating behaviors as well. And that would be kind of one of the things that we would talk about, you know, as a coach and client for someone who does want to work on their body image, is really to understand where it's come from and the influences in their upbringing or their teenage years, their childhood, and then early adulthood, to really understand how their body image has changed over time and being able to pinpoint the things that affect that. I kind of touched on before, like having your maternal relations are really important. So it's common for young children to internalize their mother's attitudes towards themselves. Like if you notice that your mum is always on a diet, then in your head that's like, oh, okay, well, it's important for me to be smaller. And we can really see how that affects someone, and it can stay with someone as well over time. So in the field of body image, there was one researcher who kind of pioneered the field, called Thomas Cash, and he identified or spoke about body image development and identified historical influences, so the past influences that we've kind of touched on, and also the current influences. So the things from your past that affect how you come to view your body the way that you do, but then also the events and experiences in your everyday life that determine how you think and feel and behave according to your looks. And we can really work on understanding someone's past in order to help, and the current as well, to kind of pinpoint areas for us to work on. And I think one of the biggest barriers to improving someone's body image is really helping someone to see that it's not the body, it's the thoughts that you have about your body. Because if someone still believes that it's the body that's the problem, they're not going to be open to exploring any of these different things. So I think as you've like reflected on your past, you can see that, well, I've been all these different shapes and sizes, and I wasn't happy at any of those stages. So it shows to you that the problem isn't your body, it's the way that you view your body. So I think really having an understanding of your own past can be helpful to open the door then to pursuing different avenues of, you know, actually working on your body image, not just your body composition. So yeah, for sure, someone's past is a really big part of that.
I feel like, is anybody normal? I mean,
What does that even mean?
right? I feel like, you know, as a parent, it doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to mess up some way or another. You know what I mean? Like if you have a family that's very, very healthy, then, you know, I've had, you know, several interactions with people who grew up that way, and then it leaned a little bit more towards anorexia. And then if you have family that is, the dynamic is, you know, not healthy at all, you know, then they struggle with being a little bit overweight for most of their life or whatever. So what are some of the things that we can do to work on these things?
Yeah. So there's a difference between, firstly, I think it's important to realize there's a difference between a negative body image and a positive body image. So they're separate constructs. So we can work on reducing a negative body image, but that doesn't necessarily mean that someone's going to be left with a positive body image. There's kind of additional work that you can do there to promote that positive body image. And when it comes to reducing a negative body image, the interventions are primarily based in cognitive behavioral therapy, to help address some of those thoughts and someone's reactions to the thoughts that they have. And I mentioned starting with getting a good understanding of, you know, where your body image has come from. Just that psychoeducation is really important, and also to understand the influence that the media has on us. You know, recognizing that, or maybe some of these ideals that I'm striving towards, potentially, you know, if we're looking at photos online, they may be unrealistic in the sense that they may be posed, edited. That kind of understanding is quite important. And also, you know, are you looking or internalizing someone's stage photos, for example, because again, that's someone at the peak of their condition that's not supposed to be maintained. So having that understanding there is really important. And then the next step would be to learn how to manage the emotions that arise when you experience potentially like those negative feelings, because given the environment that we live in, you know, we're exposed to things that are kind of known as body image threats. So when someone makes a comment on your appearance, or when you do see these pictures in the media, what do you do in response to those situations? Because we have like that activating event, and then we have our own beliefs and assumptions and judgments and interpretations about that event. So if someone said something to you, you know, how do you respond to that? And the consequences often when someone has high levels of body dissatisfaction would be a lot of discomfort or distress. And then the consequence of that would either be something like avoiding how they look, trying to fix their appearance, or even, you know, missing out on social occasions because, oh, everyone there is going to look really great and I don't feel good today, so I don't want to go, something like that. And the attitude that we want to adopt is one of mindfulness and acceptance. So actually being able to recognize the thoughts that you are having and being able to step back from those thoughts and observe them for what they are, you know, that kind of understanding that we have thoughts, but we are not our thoughts, and we don't have to let them determine what we do. We can just see them, you know, for what they are. And then having that acceptance component is really important, meaning that we don't have to take things to be true. We can just learn to experience that feeling without kind of necessarily trying to get rid of it. Normally when we're trying to avoid our emotions or change them, we don't have a lot of success in that, and it can kind of make things a little bit worse. And to get an idea of the types of events that trigger those feelings, like within yourself or a client that you're working with, it can be really helpful to have someone to fill out a body image diary. So asking themselves, you know, what am I feeling? What just happened to lead me to feel this way? What am I saying to myself in this situation? And how am I reacting or wanting to react behaviorally to this experience? So it's kind of known as the body image ABCs. So the activators, the beliefs, and the consequences. And that will help to develop that mindfulness in a way, because you're reflecting on your thoughts and feelings. And again, just having that self-awareness to understand the way that you're reacting. And that gives you a lot of information about yourself as well, and really helps you to understand the thoughts that you're struggling with. And in response to those feelings, being able to respond in a way by telling yourself, you know what, even if I don't feel so great right now, I'm going to feel better after a while. And this situation will pass. Like any negative thoughts or emotions that we have, they all kind of come and go. And I don't have to let this feeling get in the way of me doing what I want to do. And that's known as positive rational acceptance, which is a more adaptive coping style than, say, avoidance or trying to fix your appearance. Another thing that we can do, and this kind of feeds on from the body image diary, is identify some of those core beliefs that someone has in relation to their assumptions that they have about their appearance. So thinking about, what do I think what are my thoughts around my own body image, or even just how important it is to look a certain way. You know, some people may think that they will enjoy their life a bit more when they look the way that they want to look, or that their appearance is super important to them because people are going to start to treat them differently when they look better or when they look worse. Having an understanding of how your moods are influenced by how you look, and also really understanding how important it is to someone to be able to look a certain way, because there's actually kind of two components a negative body image, and one is the way that you evaluate your appearance, so whether you're satisfied or dissatisfied. But then there's also the salience factor. So how important is that for you to look a certain way? You may have someone who like, yeah, I look all right, I'm not particularly satisfied, but it's fine, because they don't care so much. Or you may have someone who is quite satisfied, but they really, really, really do care. And that can still be a problem, because they may be going to kind of extreme lengths to keep that body that they are happy with. And that can cause problems in and of itself. So really understanding how important it is to someone is also a key factor there, not just whether or not they're satisfied or dissatisfied. When you've identified those thoughts, those beliefs that someone has about their appearance, it can be really helpful to highlight whether some of those thoughts are what are known as cognitive distortions, so kind of faulty habitual ways of thinking. For example, it's very common for someone with high levels of body dissatisfaction to really dichotomize their thinking style. So if they don't look 100% their best, then everything else below that is, terrible for them. There's no in between. It's either you're a 10 out of 10 or you're a 1 out of 10. What about like the middle ground here? We don't have to look our absolute best every single day. Also, kind of the magnifying glass would be another one. So when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, do you really pinpoint and highlight the parts of your body that you don't like and forget to look about the rest of your body, for example? So there may be people who are quite hung up on their stomach. That seems to be a really common area, particularly for women, that they want to change. And are you, when you're looking in the mirror, just focusing on how much you don't like the way that your stomach appears? Or do you remember to think about, oh, okay, well, maybe I don't like my stomach so much, but there are other parts of my body that I don't mind too much. So it's a more taking a broader perspective there. So those are just a couple. Social comparisons would be a huge one. So again, when we make social comparisons, usually they're biased and unfair representations. We're comparing the worst parts of ourselves to what we've perceived to be the best parts in someone else. And we're usually using a pretty biased population to compare ourselves to. So it might be these fitness models that we see photos of on Instagram all the time. And it's about thinking, is that really an accurate representation of how people look in the world as a whole, or are they probably a biased population there? And even thinking about, why am I comparing myself just in terms of appearance as well? If we're forgetting about the fact that we are people, we're not just objects to look at. We have bodies, but that there's more to us than just that. And when you're comparing a certain part of your body to someone else's, you're objectifying both yourself and them as well. You're failing to view them as a person. So taking a step back and thinking about their other characteristics can be a really important step to go through, and explore the consequences then of the comparison making. Like, how does that make you feel? And why is it, do you think, that you're only looking at their certain parts of their body and forgetting about their personality, their intelligence, different aptitudes that they may have? And I think just having that self-awareness there when you're making the comparisons can be really, really helpful. That's even something that I would recommend people to kind of journal about. And those are situations that I've had helped clients through. So I had one client who joined a CrossFit gym. She wanted to try something new, and a lot of the women there were in phenomenal shape, and kind of when she joined, she found herself comparing herself to these people and thinking, why don't I look that way? Why can't I perform that way? And we're failing to make that connection that, hang on a minute, one, these women have been training CrossFit for years and I've only just joined. It's probably an unfair comparison. But also, why am I comparing the parts of myself that I'm insecure about and not really remembering that that's the minority of female physiques, and there are more important things to focus on than just their bodies. I think that's a really important thing to go through when you find yourself being drawn into those comparisons. There's a few more things that we can do there, but I don't know if you have any thoughts on what I've said so far.
I'm really enjoying listening to this. This reminds me of when I was in college, and I just love sitting and listening to I love it. A lot of thoughts are going through my head. I feel like I'm definitely somebody that has had a pretty troubled past, so it clicks with a lot of things. But I think the beauty of it is like what you said. For me, it's been working through almost 45 years of life to be able to say, I tried all these different sizes. I tried all these different things to try to find satisfaction with myself. And, it really just, it comes from, like you said, finding all these other attributes, which is, kind of my goal with the podcast too, is to celebrate women and find out, like, I've had interviews with different pros in the industry, and I admire who they are for what they've done. But you also see little bits and pieces of the people that they are, and wanting to know more about that and celebrate the person, I think is really cool. So, but it's hard because, somebody who's, I'm not somebody who's 20 on social media, which I feel like it would have a much different impact on me than, somebody at my age. But, I think about stuff like that. It ran through my head when you were talking about how, you have to be really strong to be able to step back and say, like, I'm not going to compare myself, which it really makes sense. Why would we compare ourselves to another person? I am an individual, that person is an individual. Let's find out what's great about that person. I can celebrate what's great about me. But when you get these images constantly, it's got to be really hard, especially when you're developing who you are and trying to figure out who you are. So, it's a crazy world. And I feel like you're really doing some really great work with putting all this stuff together. And I'm sure this is going to be, it's so helpful. It's helpful for me. So
yeah. And that's kind of how I got into it in the first place. It's like really just listening to my clients and what they wanted, and understanding that this is such a common problem. And it's actually known that the kind of attitudes that we have towards ourselves, they've coined the term normative discontent, because it's so common for people to be dissatisfied with their appearance, which kind of what led me into, researching all of this, because I don't just want to help my clients change how they look. I actually want to help them feel better as well. And that's probably more important to me.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone looks like, I don't care what you want to do with your physique, do what you want. But I just want to make sure that people feel the way that they want to feel, which is really where all of the body image kind of research and going down that path, that's kind of why. And as you say, like, yeah, it must be for someone growing up, now. There was actually just recently a study by Dove who looked into body image attitudes. I think it was in 2017. They called it like the Global Girls Beauty and Confidence Report, and they found that over half the girls around the world don't have high body esteem. 8 in 10, I believe, avoided seeing their friends or family or trying out different things like joining sports teams and clubs. 7 in 10 would be at risk for developing like health concerns or eating disorders. And also 7 in 10 wouldn't be assertive in their opinions. So like, when you feel bad about your body, you kind of tend to feel bad about yourself, on the whole, and more like being more susceptible to pressure, and not being able to assert how you feel. Like, that's a huge consequence. And I think that's kind of another thing that I didn't really realize. So I've been working on some body image webinars, so going into like the science of body image, how to reduce a negative one, how to promote a positive one. And the more I was looking into kind of the research, the more and more concerned I became, because it actually seems to be a pretty huge public health problem, because these cultural influences are so strong. Like, it's very difficult to help people feel better when they've internalized that media ideal, and we can't do anything about what people are choosing to advertise, or we probably can if we wanted to get into like some activism, those types of movements. But there's a lot that we're working against, and it's really not surprising that so many people are concerned about their body image. There was also a study by the Mental Health Foundation in the UK, and they found that over a third of UK adults have felt anxious or even depressed because of concerns they have about their body image. And it really is such a big problem because of the effects it has on someone's quality of life, the psychological distress, the unhealthy eating behaviors, also social isolation, again, holding yourself back, also decreased motivation to seek help, which I think is an important thing, because there's so many people that the more I talk about it, the more people can relate to it, and actually they're then able to identify in themselves that, oh, this is probably a problem that I should work on. It can be very difficult when you're caught up in it, thinking, well, the problem's just with my body. I don't know, all I know what to do is diet and exercise, and forgetting about that kind of internal work, because we're not aware that the problem isn't with how we look, it's about how we feel about how we look. So the more that I've been able to speak about it, I actually now have people who come to me like purely because they know they've got these physique goals, but they also recognize, maybe because of the posts that I've been putting out, that, oh, okay, there's some other things that I could probably work on alongside that too, which is, again, as I said before, part of the hurdle there is really recognizing that it's not your body, it's how you relate to your body. So having that understanding is super crucial. But yeah, it's such a huge problem, and it really is like so unfortunate when you think about, as you notice, there are so many other important things to think about, but when you're in that place, it's very hard to see that. And again, it's not a case of being vain or anything like that. It's completely understandable, but it really is such a shame to just think like there's so many other things that you could be doing and so many other things to be worried about that are more important, but it doesn't feel that way when you're stuck, and that's completely understandable.
Do you think that part of the solution then is finding those other qualities and celebrating them, that of the individual? Like, I think about like I talk about my daughter sometimes, but she has a lot of gifts and she's not really into fitness. She's a pretty good athlete, but she doesn't really enjoy doing athletics, and has a really good body image. And I think it's because she focuses on the other things that she's good at. She likes music and she draws and those types of things. So is that a solution, to step away from the diet and exercise and take a class or learn how to do something? So what are some of the things that are going to help us get a better body image? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, 100%. So I touched on the fact that it's not just about how you evaluate your appearance, but also how important your appearance is to you as a person. And the overvaluation of your shape and weight can result in the marginalization of other areas of your life that could contribute positively to your self-evaluation. So if you're so concerned about your shape and your weight and your eating and your training, then that can really detract from remembering that there are other things in your life that you've got going on. We're so focused on the one thing that we forget about everything else. And you've got things like, what's important to you, your friends and your family, your education, your hobbies, your career. There's so many other things that people have going on. And one thing that they do in cognitive behavioral therapy is to help someone to evaluate themselves from a broader perspective. So it starts by listing the things that are important to how you judge yourself as a person. So some of those things that I mentioned, like, yeah, sure, your shape and your weight at this stage is something that's very important to you, but what else is important in your life? And then ranking those items in terms of their relative importance. And what they do is put this into a pie chart, and it's quite a nice exercise to go through. So this is something that I've been helping clients with as well, because I found that if you just Google free online pie chart maker, like, you can make your own pie chart online. And what people find is that they would like to think that their shape and weight only takes up a small portion of their pie chart. But if they were being like honest with themselves, they can see that, oh, actually, I dedicate so much time and attention to this that even though I know my friends and family are important to me, I actually probably neglect them a little bit because I'm so busy. Like, I have to train at this time. I can't eat out because I've got to have this meal. You really hold yourself back from these other things. So once you've done that, you can examine your own pie chart and think about its implications and how important is your weight and shape to you. And then we want to work on reducing that focus that someone has. So spending less time thinking about their shape and weight. And as I mentioned before, monitoring those thoughts and feelings can really lead to that insight, because sometimes people don't really realize, oh my goodness, I'm thinking about my body all of the time, and it's really getting in the way of doing the things that I want to do. Another thing to keep an eye out for is shape checking. And I think this is really important when it comes to that coach and client relationship, because often when we're working towards physique changes, it's like, right, let's monitor your body weight, let's take physique photos, you might do measurements. That's a lot of, focus on someone's appearance. And often, even between those measurements, people are out there checking themselves in the mirror multiple times a day, even pinching parts of their body where they think they have body fat. And sometimes we don't realize just how often we're doing that. Why do I need to check myself out in the mirror like 5 times a day when my body hasn't really changed that much between, checking? What am I looking for? These are important things to consider, because they can often cause a fair bit of distress as well. And those checking behaviors can reinforce the idea that it's important to tightly control how we look. So that could be one thing to address as well, is really thinking about how often am I checking my body, and is this really necessary, and is it actually helpful, and potentially moving away from doing that so often. So being able to delay or restrict your tendency to check your body, that's another thing that we can monitor and work on. But yeah, then it comes to putting energy into other things, and what I quite like about, so this is something that we've kind of put together in the comprehensive coaching framework, is that we draw from cognitive behavioral therapy and cognitive behavioral coaching, but also acceptance and commitment therapy, or acceptance and commitment training. And one of the huge kind of cornerstones of acceptance and commitment therapy is thinking about someone's values. So what kind of qualities of behavior do you want to bring to your everyday life? These aren't things for you to have, but how you would like to act and behave on an ongoing basis. I think kind of thinking about that can really help someone to identify what's actually important to them. If they value challenge, adventure, and flexibility, well, sometimes, our behaviors that we're engaging in to maintain or achieve this ideal body composition are directly against the values someone may have of flexibility and adventure, for example, feeling like they can't be spontaneous and go out on the weekends because they're worried about what food's going to be on offer. So I think combining those two can be really helpful. And then when it comes to promoting a positive body image, then it's about really appreciating and respecting your body for what it does for you, not just how it looks. People may be slightly confused and thinking that having a positive body image means loving every part of your body all of the time, but that's not the case at all. It's actually just about accepting your body despite the fact that it may not be congruent with the media ideals, and respecting your body by tending to its needs and engaging in healthy behaviors, and protecting it as well by rejecting unrealistic standards. And the ways that you can do that are, one of the big ones is really appreciating the function of your body. And I don't just mean the things that, like, your physical capabilities. That could be one component, thinking about, for example, the strength that you're building in the gym, not just how your muscles are changing in their appearance. Thinking about your mobility or different skills that you can perform. It includes that, but it's also broader than that, because our body is the mediator between the world and then our own experience of the world. So if we engage with the world through our bodies, which includes like our sight, what amazing sights have you been able to see? What kind of music have you been able to listen to? What can you do with your body? How does it allow you to connect with other people? Like being able to hug your friends. All of those types of things are also functions that your body performs. And these are things that are very easy to forget about and to be grateful and appreciative of. So really, if you want to work on that, just journaling about the things that your body does for you in these different domains, like, again, not just your physical capabilities, but also thinking about your senses, and the way that you can connect with other people. Those are other things that we can be grateful for. So it really is just about stepping away from viewing your body as something to be looked at, and kind of embodying your body a little bit more. So we don't just have a body, we live through our bodies. So thinking about your body from the inside out, rather than just like the outsider's perspective, can be a really, really important thing to think about. Another one would be body image flexibility. So again, being able to accept, oh, well, sometimes I'm not going to feel my best and it doesn't really matter. I can still go out and do the important things, you know, in my life. Because sometimes we really need to test our own beliefs that we have. You know, you might think that people are going to judge you for looking a certain way, and then you go out and you realize nobody even noticed how I looked today. Like nobody noticed the fact that I was bloated. It was all me in my head, you know. So I think really testing those beliefs can be quite important there. And then just another one that I think is really important to touch on is self-compassion, because that seems to be quite a huge mediating factor when it comes to someone's ability to appreciate their body or to be quite flexible in, you know, what they do with their body and how they respond to those body image threats. And self-compassion is just the way that you kind of respond to your own perceived failures or inadequacies or just difficulties that you're having. So it's about being open to your own feelings, and being able to take an understanding, non-judgmental attitude towards those feelings and experiences that you're having, and recognizing that your own experience is just you're human, right? It's something that we all share. Everyone has these down days, and that's completely normal. So being able to take a step back from that, recognize and acknowledge how you're feeling, and be kind to yourself in those situations, because so many people are very, very critical of how they feel, you know, and how they think about themselves, and it's often not helpful. If it doesn't motivate us to improve, it tends to just make us feel worse and leads to rumination, which isn't productive or helpful for anyone. So it's quite the literature on self-compassion is getting to like pretty significantly seems to predict a number of has a huge impact on our quality of life from a physical and a mental health perspective. The evidence on self-compassion interventions isn't as strong, so we can see that it's important, and then going about developing self-compassion can be quite challenging. But I think one of the key things is just really recognizing, is this self-talk helpful? You know, because we have these expectations of, you know, always trying to push for more and being really critical of ourselves when we feel like we're failing, but really understanding, is that actually motivating me to be better, or is it making me feel worse? And being able to find ways to be a little bit kinder to yourself in those situations can be really important. And that has a huge impact on someone's body image as well, and their ability to be kind and accepting of their body, even if it doesn't match up to what we perceive to be, you know, ideal, what the media is telling us is ideal.
My one of the things that my therapist had talked to me about was talking about excellence, not perfection. And when, you know, the self-talk that is guided by wanting to be excellent in something is much different than the negative self-talk that comes from trying to achieve perfection, because it's something that you can never achieve. So yeah, I think that's been a theme that I've seen a lot too, you know, on social media, is how we speak to ourselves. And, you know, we wouldn't speak to other people that way, hopefully. So just checking yourself, I think that's super important as well. One of the things that I thought of while you were talking was just the way that we appreciate our bodies. I think, as you know, I've mentioned aging a ton, but I feel like I'm in this sort of midlife crisis. So I've been evaluating things a lot with my life. And, you know, I was thinking about, like, my grandma lived to be 97 years old. And, you know, one of the things that she loved was reading. And then, you know, her body held out really well, but then her vision started to go. Her hearing was a problem for a while. But when she couldn't read anymore, that was really tough for her, you know? And so I think you're right. We don't think about just the fact that our eyes work, that we can listen to music. These are like really small gratitude things that we just don't really think about, because we kind of take it for granted that everything is working the way it's supposed to, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's sometimes very difficult to realize, like, we all value certain things, and sometimes we don't realize what it is that we value because, as you say, we're so used to having them and we can take them for granted. Like, for example, with lockdown last year, I didn't value the fact that I could freely leave my house when I chose to. I only valued that when it was taken away and I was locked in. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can't even leave when I want to leave. And you don't realize that because you're so used to it. And the same thing goes for, as you say, things like your sight, being able to read books. Like, I'm a huge reader, so that's definitely something that I can relate to, feeling, it's actually a huge or really something to be appreciative of, the fact that I can read a book when I want to read a book, the fact that I can go on the internet and listen to any song that's ever been produced. I can find it and listen to it. Like, that's an experience that some people don't have, and I can really be grateful and appreciative towards that. Even your body's ability to heal and recover from illnesses, if you didn't have that, you'd soon, be that would be a huge impact on your life. So really thinking about the fact that your body is healthy and can take care of itself, and your body is working for you, and we can kind of fight back against that in ways that we don't realize. So I think really understanding that as well, that this war that we have against our bodies is something that our bodies don't want to participate in, and we're kind of bringing upon ourselves, like, through these external influences. When we internalize those, it's really about the thoughts that we have and how we relate to that. So thinking, yeah, like, actually your body's not out to get you. It's not something that you need to tightly control and manage. It's about really experiencing the world with your body alongside that. And I don't think that has to be incompatible with making physique changes, but so long as they're not, the most important thing to you, and really remembering all the other things that you've got going on and all the other things to be grateful for and really appreciative of. And it's definitely, again, not something that comes naturally, and that's understandable. And that's why I think it's really important to consciously, re-engage with those things, and remembering that, oh yeah, just the fact that I can read a book. Like, if my body wasn't able to do these things, what would our lives be like if we couldn't just hug our friends when we wanted to hug our friends, or lift heavy weights in the gym, or learning a skill, or dancing, or even painting and being creative. Like, these are all things that we can do because we have a body. So really thinking about that, I think, can be a huge step to, as you say, like, just broadening that kind of consideration of all the other things that you've got going on, because everyone has things in their lives. It's just whether or not we realize it is the difference.
I think it's really interesting and important to say that it's not just the people that are actively working on their bodies, like bodybuilding or whatever, that this is just a common theme with a lot of people. I just think that's important to have that type of forgiveness, because I think we can really, you see a lot of that attacking on the internet with, you're so vain and those types of, troll comments. But, it's likely coming from somebody who also feels bad about themselves for a different reason. So,
that's exactly it.
Yeah. So one of the things that you had posted was about compliments. And I think this is really great. Just, it's tough because I feel like, social media is this game. You have to have a picture that goes along with your post, so you want to have a picture that's going to draw attention in order to say what you want to say. So you're trying to get people in to hear you, but you have to get their attention. And I always find it frustrating when, I go through this to write this whole thing, and then somebody's like, oh, not that, like, it sounds awful. Compliments about your body are like, okay, that's nice, but that wasn't what I, like, you didn't even, like, it's like almost like you're not being heard. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you had made a post about compliments that are not about physical things or something like that. Can you talk about that? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is a really important point. So why do we compliment people on their weight loss? You know, usually we have good intentions, or on their body or their appearance, in any aspect. So usually we have good intentions with this. You know, we're just trying to be nice and make someone feel good about themselves. But sometimes these compliments aren't as harmless as what we may think. And there's the phenomena that's known as complementary weightism, which suggests that sometimes commenting on someone's appearance may contribute to self-objectification. So someone's tendency to view their body as an ornament that's valued is based on its appearance. So if you're saying to someone, oh, you know, you're so lean, your abs look great, what you're telling them is that, oh, you know, having abs is valuable. So then this person may think that, right, I need to maintain these abs if people are going to appreciate me or respect me, you know. And this I don't necessarily mean that this may be the case for everyone. You know, not everyone's going to internalize these comments in the same way. But just having that understanding that some people who are already have that tendency to objectify themselves may actually take that and have that compliment can be making them feel worse. And when we've got that in mind, then it's like, why are we even complimenting people on their appearance in the first place? You know, there are so many other things that we can compliment someone on if we want to show our appreciation for them. You know, things like, and this is relevant to coaching as well. Like, I never compliment my clients on their weight loss or anything like that. It'll be a case of, you're working so hard, you know, you're so committed to your goals, you really value taking care of yourself, you're so strong. I love how you listen to your body and know when to rest. I think is quite a nice one, because again, we can get caught up in just pushing and going for it, and that's not always what our bodies need. You look so happy. If you want to compliment someone on their appearance, I think something like that is much more meaningful. Or if you do want to compliment on their appearance, complimenting someone's choice of clothing, their style, that's something that, you know, is a reflection of their personality more than, oh, you're so lean, you have great abs. And the thing is as well, when it comes to weight loss, not all of it's intentional and not all of it's healthy. Is you could be complimenting someone who is super stressed right now, has dropped a lot of weight because they're not eating, because they've got things going on in their life, and telling that person, you look so great. It's just like, whoa, hang on a minute, I'm not even trying to lose weight here. That can be really damaging. And I realized as I wrote that post that I never compliment people on their body, because it's not something that clicks for me, because I don't think it's that valuable. So why would I compliment someone on that? Because I don't think it's something that's worth, you know, feeling that great about. Like, sure, again, having these physique goals is fine, but if I really want someone to feel good, I'm going to offer something a bit more meaningful than just commenting on their appearance. Because to me, it's just like, well, that's neither here nor there. It doesn't really make a difference. And what you touched on with the post that us, you know, as fitness professionals, people who work in the industry, what kind of post do we want to put out when we're thinking about the messages that we want to portray? That's something that I thought about a lot. I think when I started, I would definitely put more pictures of my body out there. And then as I kind of progressed in my understanding of, I guess, just psychology and the struggles that my clients were having, and body image, it's like, I don't think it's that helpful to be posting photos of ourselves online. And this feeds into a lot of conversations that I've had. So I coach a lot of other coaches as well, and a lot of them can feel pressure to have the, you know, like the ideal physique, because it's part of their business. That's how they're going to get work from their clients. And when it comes down to it, your clients don't care that much about how you look. What's more important to them is that you understand them, their struggles, and you can help them get the results that they want. That's ultimately what they care about. I'd imagine that a lot of my clients don't even know what I look like, because I don't post that many photos of myself online. And it's not for wanting to avoid, you know, my body or anything like that. I said, I actually don't think it's that important. It's not the message that I'm trying to get out to people. And especially if you're recognizing that some of your clients may be quite vulnerable, quite prone to objectifying themselves, quite high in levels of body dissatisfaction, they're the types of people that are going to compare themselves more. And I don't think that putting our bodies out there is necessarily as helpful as what we may think. And I also think that there are other ways that we can go about getting the message out there. Infographics are huge. They do really well. There doesn't have to be a body behind the infographic. You know, I think bringing some personality personality to your Instagram, yeah, sure, can really help with business. But you can do that by just talking to the camera. It doesn't have to be a picture of your abs twisting and posing in the mirror, you know. And it may not be the fastest way to grow your account. Like, I'm sure like booty shots or, you know, really impressive physiques do get a lot of likes, but is there any substance behind that, really? You know, and I think just thinking about what you want to achieve and how you want people to feel. For me, I would rather have a smaller account that grows slower but doesn't make people feel bad, you know, and actually hopefully is providing some value. I'd rather that than a huge account that gets a lot of likes because people like how my body looks and it doesn't really go anywhere, it doesn't mean anything to me, you know. So I think just thinking about that can really help take some of the pressure off that people who work in the industry may feel to look a certain way, and thinking about what you want your clients to achieve. You know, if you don't really care how your clients look and you don't think it's that important, then start living out your own values in relation to that, you know. And you don't have to stress so much about looking a certain way, because that's not necessarily the message that you're trying to put out there anyway. You know, our bodies do change, that's normal. And yeah, taking care of ourselves is super important, but that doesn't mean looking super lean all the time. And I think, yeah, just being able to move away from the expectation that you have on yourself and thinking about, is your body really that important to your business, or is it more about health, you know, living your life and helping people to see that as well. I think that's something that's really important, because it is something that comes up a lot with discussions that I have with other coaches, is that pressure to look a certain way. But again, that pressure is only there if you take it in, you know, and you can change your own views towards yourselves and the type of work that you want to be doing with people and how you go about your business.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I've been thinking about that a lot. So that's yeah. I'm at a loss where to go next. I'm gonna pause 1 second here. Yeah, on that note, I was gonna say that every client that I've ever gotten has been from, you know, I'd get an email and they talked about how it had a lot to do with the information that I put out there, the relationship that I had with my daughter. And that was a connection that was, I think they knew that I cared and I was a nurturing person. And so, you know, I think sometimes when you hire a coach, you're afraid that they're going to be real. Well, you want to have a relationship. It's a relationship, you know? So knowing that your coach is going to be someone that is working towards a healthy relationship with you as well. And if they can see that, the way that you interact with other people that you care about, I think that, you know, that's been every single client that I've got has been based off my relationship with my daughter, which is pretty crazy, but
that's amazing. But yeah, I completely agree. Like, people care more about the fact that you care and that you're willing to be there and listening to what someone wants. That's more important to them. Like, I've never had a message, oh, I came to you because you have abs. Like, what? It's all about, oh, I came to you because you talk about the things that I struggle with and it's really important to me. I can see that you care. You know, all of those reasons are why someone would want to work with you, not just based on how you look. And I think, yeah, why don't we show that more? You know, why don't we show the fact that we care, that, you know, the interactions that we have with our clients or the people in our lives, like, you know, your daughter, that's what people care about ultimately. And I think when we realize the, you know, how social media can affect how someone feels about themselves, like positively or negatively, I think that really puts a lot of responsibility on ourselves for the type of messages that we put out there. You know, do we want to be a positive influence, or, you know, are we causing harm without really realizing it? And I think the better, more we can steer towards the important things, that really is crucial part of just improving the relationship that people have with themselves. Again, just highlighting, this is what's really important. This is how we can go about working on it. This is why you feel the way that you do. It's normal, it's common, but it doesn't have to be that way. And yeah, showing like the ways that you interact with people, I think is absolutely huge. That's what people care about more than, I think, but deep down, people know what they care about. It's very easy to get swayed by what looks flashy or what looks attractive, you know, and that's a normal human tendency. I think if we can bring it back to the more meaningful meaningful things, then that's what's really going to benefit people, the most in the long run. And I think that's what will pay off as well.
Yeah. So, Shannon, you say that you wrote a book? Did you write a book?
I'm working on some webinars. I think that's what you're referring to. Yeah, I've it's been like such a long time coming, because again, I think it's such an important topic, body image, especially for coaching, how to help our clients bridge that gap between wanting to look a certain way and wanting to feel good, because so many people have kind of said that, often it's either or. Either you have to go to these extremes to look a certain way, or you give up and just love yourself where you are, and that's not really helpful either. So I wanted to provide that middle ground where it says, we can work on these changes alongside some of this additional internal work. So yeah, I'm working on some webinars about what body image is, how we can reduce a negative body image, and how we can promote a positive body image. I'm hoping to record them this weekend, actually. So maybe they'll be live soon. Fingers crossed for that. But yeah, that's something that I'll be putting out there within the next couple of weeks, hopefully.
So where can people find these from you then?
I think the best place to keep up to date, keep in touch, would be over on my Instagram, which is at Shannon Beer _. You can also join the Comprehensive Coaching Community, which is a Facebook group that Gabrielle Fandaro and I are running together, where we talk about all of these things that we've mentioned, the values, the communication in coaching, body image, how to help clients through that. And we're really working towards achieving something that we've called flourishing health, which is just that broader conceptualization of health, and not just our physical health, but our mental and emotional well-being as well, and how we can help our clients with that. So yeah, joining the Facebook group could be a good shout, and to find the information about that would be on our website. I think it's btgcomprehensivecoaching.com, something along those lines. But either of our Instagrams, you'll find it in our bios. So yeah, over there is a great place to start.
All right, that's awesome. So is there anyone that you would recommend that that we follow on Instagram that you admire, we could get more information from?
Yeah, sure. Gabrielle. So Vitamin PhD. I also think, like, if you're interested in the types of things that we've spoken about today, like body image and potentially like disordered eating behaviors, there's a really great account run by Dr. Jake Glenarden, who's based over in Melbourne, and that's break.binge.eating. And he goes into, again, a lot more information. Do you follow his account?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. I think that's a really important account as well, to have that. Again, talking about positive influences here and actual helpful advice. Jake's account would be one to follow too.
Awesome. All right. Well, it just was enlightening. It's nice to have a bit of education on the podcast. So I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's been great.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day in Bali. That just sounds, I'm in Michigan and it's cold here. We're all snow.
Yeah, that's why I came. I need some sun. I need to be able to go outside.
Yeah, it's great. So you're not locked down over there, or what's it kind of like over there? Oh, I think I lost you. Are you still there? Oh, are you?
Yeah, I think it just froze, but I can hear you now. It's just frozen. Oh, there we go. We're back.
I asked you if, so is it locked down there? Like, are you wearing masks? Like, what's going on? Is it nice? No.
Well, they kind of, I guess they're supposed to be enforcing the mask, but just because it's Bali, they're pretty loose on it. Like, we have to wear them when we're like riding on the scooters. But I mean, I can train BJJ here, which is like one of the worst things to be doing in terms of contact, and that's still going ahead. So they've introduced a lockdown where things close at 9 p.m., but that's pretty much it, and it's almost just normal here.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, all right. Well, I'm going to say this is Deborah Jean Terpstra, wishing you guys well, and to remember that healthy looks different on everybody. Have a great day.